Welcome to our next panel. We're about to hear a keynote speech from the trailblazing former Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, who spoke to us yesterday and answered some of the questions you submitted for her. But first, we are super lucky to introduce exciting new political talent, Deja Foxx. She is running in Arizona's 7th district, the district represented for over 2 decades by the legendary Raul Grijalva. You may remember him as the guy with the huge Nietzsche mustache, very charismatic and an amazing leader. Deja Foxx is 25 years old. She went viral for confronting Senator Flake over voting to defund Planned Parenthood and was an influencer strategist for Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Last thing, if you miss anything for any reason today, don't worry, we'll be turning all of the content into recordings and podcasts and posting them on our site and on our YouTube channel in a few days so you can catch up in your own time. All right, now, Deja Foxx, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jason, for inviting me and that warm introduction. I'm so glad to be here with you all today because I know that our democracy only works when folks like you show up and make it happen. And it's the kind of work that I've been doing for the last decade. I'm going to share a little bit of my personal story with you all today as a reminder of why we do this work. I was raised here in Tucson, Arizona. This is my hometown, Southern Arizona, by a single mom. And I grew up in Section 8 housing, relying on SNAP benefits, food stamps, and Medicaid. I was a free lunch kid in our public schools, and my mom worked every odd job you could imagine. I mean, she delivered flowers, pulled shifts at a post office, was a caregiver for the elderly, and cleaned homes. She was one of so many Americans that do what they can to just get by. And my earliest organizing memories are watching her when she was out of work step up to babysit for someone in the neighborhood so they could pull an extra shift. I came from a community that was made to not have enough in one of the richest countries in the world, but who made enough together. And that's my first memories of what it means to organize. And, I'll fast forward just a bit to say that by the time I was 15, my mom was really struggling. While she was navigating a rehabilitation process because of her issues with substance abuse, I was on my own, experiencing something that 1 in 30 teens here in the US do called hidden homelessness. I didn't have a home of my own. I bounced between friends' houses and eventually lived with my boyfriend at the time and his family. And it was through that experience that sitting in a sex education class in my public school here in Tucson Unified School District, one that was last updated in the 80s, that didn't mention consent, that was medically inaccurate, and that was taught by the baseball coach, that I saw an opportunity to take action. I started showing up to school board meetings, the most local of the local government, and demanding that they do better, sharing a very vulnerable story, if we can all root ourselves in what it means to be a teenage girl, right? It was not easy to get up and share the story of navigating making reproductive health decisions on my own, being disenfranchised by this outdated curriculum. But I started asking my friends if they'd come along to meetings and do the same. And Tuesdays after school, we would pack this school board and demand better from our elected officials. And this is time in which, I could have been studying for my APs to be the first in my family to go to college, or working my shift at the gas station to just make ends meet. But it requires folks like us showing up to push our electeds to do better. And I never looked back. Jason referenced that a year later, under the first Trump administration, Republicans here in Arizona attempted to strip funding from Planned Parenthood centers where I got care when I had no money, no parents, and no insurance. And so I went toe-to-toe with Republicans then and asked people like Jeff Flake why they would deny me the American dream if birth control was helping me to be successful. And I'll tell you right now that they didn't stand a chance because of advocates like us. I went on to be the first in my family to go to college. I went to Columbia University. I worked on history-making presidential campaigns, both on the behind the scenes. At 19 years old, I did influencer and surrogate strategy for the Kamala Harris campaign, a history-making campaign. And in 2024, worked the other side of the camera as a surrogate on the Reproductive Freedoms bus tour here in Arizona, and speaking at the 2024 DNC, where I had the opportunity to highlight the issues that young people care most about: reproductive rights, the cost of living, student debt, the climate crisis, things that are not theoretical to my generation. And now, I am back home, both feet on the ground and rooted here in Southern Arizona, where we have a real fight and an opportunity to make a splash and send a message to our party about a new generation of leadership. I'll pass it over to you, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for your leadership, Deja Foxx. You are a true inspiration, and yeah, just so grateful for you. And now, before we go to the keynote by another Democratic superstar, Deb Haaland, can we get Dale up here and do a quick update on our fundraising? This morning, we set a goal for the day of $25,000. Very audacious goal. It is absolutely what we need to really put more energy behind what we're doing. We expand the map to the extent our fundraising allows. When I showed that map a little while ago of those 29 states, 63 House districts, that is our goal. That's an aspirational map right now. We need to raise $4 million in these 2 years to do that.
Just to be clear, we do not have to raise $4 million on today's call.
Correct. Thank you. Good points. No, $25,000 is the goal for today. And we can absolutely do that. So yes.
Do you want to hazard a guess as to where we are?
I know we were knocking on we're halfway through the event, and we were almost halfway, almost to $12,500.
That's right.
So I'm going to say we hit the halfway point.
You can even get a little bolder than that.
I'm nervous. How about okay, I'm going to say 13,500.
Almost. We are at 16,216, believe it or not.
Oh, nice. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone on this call who is donating, and donating a couple times even, like during the call. It all counts. That is huge. That is really incredibly helpful. Wow. Okay. So 25,000 remains our goal for the day, up to over 16,000. Thank you.
All right, I just did some math with a calculator because I can't do it in my head. So that means that we just have 8784 more to raise in the second half of our program. We can do that. We totally can do that. There's 340 people on the call. Some of those have already donated. I'm not saying people can't donate twice. I'm not going to say that, but you can certainly send a text or an email to somebody that you know who may not be here today, but might watch the recordings later. Get them to chip in today. We can make 8784. I feel like a telethon host. We can get to 8784 by the end of this event today at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you everybody who's donated, and thank you everybody who's asked someone else to donate. You guys are literally the best. Okay.
And please, yes, thank you. Send that link around to anyone you know who might be interested in helping our work. $25,000 would allow us, if we put it all into texts, realistically, we're going to split it up between some things, but just to give you a sense of what that does, that would allow us to text 625,000 people. We've sent tens of millions of texts. They're super effective. So it's a huge force multiplier. Keep going. All right. And now I want to keep the inspiration coming with a keynote by Deb Haaland, a serious Democratic hero. In 2018, she became one of the two first Native American women elected to Congress, along with Sharice Davids. We're super proud to have registered Democrats for both of those races. 3 years later, the Senate confirmed her as Biden's Secretary of the Interior, the first ever Native American cabinet secretary. Currently, tears. That was such a beautiful moment. So currently in her own New Mexico, she's focusing on creating jobs, growing clean energy, and lowering the cost of housing. Yesterday, Deb Haaland spoke to our own Field Team 6 Chief Strategist, Corey Alpert, and then after that, took questions submitted by you. So let's hear from her. Deb Haaland, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Register Dems Summit virtual event. Thanks for having me to kick off important discussions about the future. Right now, our country is in crisis. I would even go so far as to say that it's an existential crisis. President Trump and his Republican allies, who, let's face it, don't have the spine to stand up for our democracy, are waging a coordinated attack on our rights, our freedoms, our wallets, and our futures. I know it's scary, right? Here in New Mexico, Republican cuts to Medicaid, food pantries, wildfire funding, education, conservation, and clean energy will be devastating. They are louder, crueler, and more determined than ever. They're trying to roll back decades of progress. They're trying to silence women, erase history, and dismantle democracy. This is not politics as usual. This is an intentional, calculated assault on the very idea that the government should serve the people. That's why Democrats must fight back. But winning isn't just an outcome, it's a process. It requires dedication, organization, and a deep connection with the people we serve. It requires listening to the concerns of the communities, understanding their needs, and working tirelessly to deliver for them. Look, I've been on the other side of the coin, facing a system that doesn't work for regular people. There was one time that I looked in my cupboards at Thanksgiving and didn't have enough food for a nice dinner for me and my child. I applied for emergency SNAP benefits, but was denied. I cried right there in the benefits office. We have to be clear-eyed. Sometimes the system doesn't work, but unlike Republicans, we don't believe in gutting programs. We believe in making them better. For this event, I was asked, how will Dems win in 2026? This is a simple question for me to answer. We must show up. Go to districts that voted for Trump. Talk to people. Let them know you care. That is what people want from us now. We see your protests. We see your hashtags. Now it's time that we act on it. Voters want to see that we are committed to working for them. As Dems, we need to remain strong against policies that hurt our people and fight for the policies that people care about, such as lowering costs, public safety, healthcare, education, and climate. Our solutions need to be clear and accessible. Thanks for having me, and I'm ready to take your questions.
Thank you so much, Secretary. We really appreciate it. So we're going to dive right into some questions that we've gotten from some of our supporters here at Field Team 6. So the first one comes from Diane in New Jersey. She asks, what are the actions Trump and his corrupt cabal are taking that will be the hardest to reverse when we win a majority back in Congress?
Thank you so much for the question, Diane. And yes, that will be a good day when we win back the majority. And yes, there's so many things, right? The Trump administration has worked overtime to take us off our course on climate change, and that is detrimental. And I know the clock is ticking. So we are going to have to work as hard as we can to make sure that the clean energy industry still has opportunities to move forward. So let's make sure that we are doubling down on the support for clean energy, making sure people know what is happening out there so that we can keep stay on course for ensuring that clean energy is a part of not only our economy, but our conservation efforts, and that our children can breathe clean air into the future.
Thank you for that. Next, Maggie from Albuquerque asks, can you talk about the handing over of public lands like national monuments and national parks for privatization?
So I will say that during the time I was in the administration, we did a wonderful job of land conservation, 41 million acres of land into conservation across our country. Public lands belong to all of us. And I know that the outdoor economy depends on healthy environments and healthy landscapes to be able to keep roofs over their families' heads. So we need to use our public lands. We should be out in our public lands every opportunity we have. And I think that in and of itself is a way to ensure that we are doing what we need to. During the time I was in the Secretary's office, we also had over 400 co-stewardship agreements with tribes across the country. And that made sure that the ancestral homelands that our tribal nations that they have a hand in ensuring that those lands are stewarded properly. So I think that the best thing we can do right now is to be out in our public lands and make sure we're using them. And of course, we're rally, write letters, contact your Congress people. Everything that applies to our advocacy in the past applies now for conservation of our public lands.
Next, Justin from California asks, how should we as a country address the gun violence epidemic?
Hi, Justin. Thank you so much for your question. And look, this has been a horrible, horrible issue that has plagued so many communities. And no one wants to send their kids to school and worry about an active shooter. But that's the reality that we're facing. In New Mexico, there's a brand new law to ban what are called Glock switches. Those are the devices that make pistols capable of fully automatic fire. And those are the kinds of common sense gun laws that we need. Glock switches should never be allowed. They should be illegal. And I would like to see us think about these common sense gun laws across the country. Though New Mexico has a vibrant hunting community, we don't use Glock switches when we're hunting deer or elk. And so I think that across the country, we should make sure that we are advocating for these common sense gun laws and not caring whether or not, politicians shouldn't care whether or not they're A, B, C grading from the National Rifle Association. We just need to make sure that we are protecting our communities, making sure that we are advocating that assault weapons are also illegal. We have to get a handle on stolen guns. There's an epidemic of that across the country, and certainly that happens in New Mexico. Registration requirements that help protect communities and track guns are absolutely imperative. And so those are the things that we should be advocating for.
So, Secretary, I'm from a small rural town in South Carolina, and so because of that, I'm always thinking about how do we engage or even re-engage some of these communities that both you and I are from. So, given your experience as a 35th generation New Mexican with deep roots in these rural communities, what should we as Democrats be doing to reconnect with these voters who in the last couple of years have really shifted away from us and from how we talk about our party and our values?
Sure. Well, first of all, we should show up. We should show up to those places. We should meet voters where they are. It's so important that they see us. When I was organizing in Indian country, I drove to every single Native American community in New Mexico. You need to have face-to-face conversations with people. I think that is so important. And I'll tell you what, so many people get their information from social media, and social media isn't always reliable. We see that the Republicans post fraudulent advertisements all the time. And so we need to counteract that. But I think one way to do that is to show up, meet voters where they are, ask them personally to vote for your candidates, to register to vote, to understand how valuable and important their participation in these elections are. And so, in the last election, we lost 3% of our Democratic votes to the Republicans. And so I feel very strongly that I want to bring those voters back to make sure they know that we have their values at heart.
You have incredible experience, especially in New Mexico, and if I understand correctly, you were the chair of the New Mexico Democratic Party. Can you tell us a little bit more about what does organizing look like to you?
Absolutely. So when I've organized in Indian country, I've started with going to the tribal administration building and asking permission to be in their community, right? Knocking on doors and understanding what their values are, what their challenges are, right? And in a lot of rural communities here in New Mexico, some folks don't have running water, they don't have electricity. And so we need to be cognizant of what their challenges are and really think about how can we make these communities better. I believe very strongly that moving the needle on clean energy across our state in particular, because we have over 300 days of sun per year and an abundance of wind, natural resources that will never run out. That those are things that we can work toward every single day. I mean, look, it's understanding the communities where you're organizing, helping them to see that you do understand and that there's a way forward.
I worked for Pete Buttigieg in 2020 and 2019, and we actually went to go visit the Catawba Nation in the northern part of South Carolina. And I remember we met with their tribal leaders, and we walked out of that meeting. And I remember that the chief came up to me and gave me a big hug and said, "That's the first white leader to have visited our lands in hundreds of years." I mean, it's amazing how much just showing up and listening. But Pete really didn't say much in that meeting. He just wanted to hear what they had to say. And it really is powerful just what that act of showing up does. And I hope that all the people on this call continue to do that. I have one longer question, and then I'll sort of add one more question at the tail end. But you were one of in President Biden's cabinet. You were certainly one of the more popular and cabinet secretaries across the country, and you garnered support from several Republican senators. And that's something that I think you've done across your entire career. What lessons have you learned about finding common ground with people on a different side of the aisle from you, both to help heal some of the partisan divisions, but also to get stuff done? How do you think about doing that?
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. I am committed to that. When I was in Congress, I got 5 pieces of legislation passed and signed into law by President Trump. It's because I really did try to find common ground with folks across the aisle to get things done for New Mexico. I really was committed to ensuring that we got things done for New Mexico. And, it's so important that we find those. I know sometimes it seems like we're just bickering and fighting across the aisle. And it seems that way now because of the chaos that's coming out of the White House. But not every single Republican is like the current president. And so find the things that you have in common because we really need to get work done. Things cannot be at a standstill indefinitely. We have to find ways to move our country forward. And there are definitely things that we can agree on. When I was in Congress, for example, when I was on the House Armed Services Committee, we found a way to help women to achieve the higher ranks. And so, yes, we want women to have opportunities in the military. And so I worked with some colleagues across the aisle to make sure that we were able to do that. So it's not an impossible task. And to your point, Corey, in the story you told about you and former Secretary Buttigieg meeting with the tribal nation in South Carolina, sometimes you have to do more listening than talking, right? You listen to what people need and then you can act. But if you don't listen, if you are the one, if you think you have all the ideas, I think, you can take a step back and listen to the folks whose lives are affected by some of the decisions that have been made previously. And you'll find that you can have new ideas and work together on making our country a better place. So I am excited about the opportunities that lie ahead, and I will absolutely be doing more listening than talking, likely, but also finding ways to just move our country forward together. I think that's still possible, and I am going to hold out hope that it is.
Well, I really appreciate that. You've been an absolute stalwart leader for our country, and I know all of us here are so grateful. I'm going to ask you one final question and then give you the floor for anything you'd like to add. We have more than 1,000 people here who've come to hear you talk and who are so excited to join you. Now, again, I'm a good South Carolina boy, so I have my favorite national park down in Congaree, but what is your favorite national park?
So I don't have a favorite. I'll tell you why, because I haven't visited every single national park. So I don't know what national parks I haven't been to are great. But I will say that every single national park is special. Every single place. And I want people to remember that these national parks were once stewarded by Indian tribes in the location that they are. And so think about that when you visit our national parks, what its history is and why you should be respectful of the land. And I feel like you'll find that you have a deeper experience. It's amazing. Yellowstone is amazing. You can, drive down the road and see bison grazing and running in the fields there. I also saw wolves once when I was at Yellowstone. You can go to Yosemite and see waterfalls just falling down from the cliffs, amazingly beautiful. You can go to Wind Cave National Park in South Dakota, a very spiritual place and hundreds of feet below the earth. Every place is special and every place is amazing. I think the most important thing is to get outdoors, go visit your national parks, make sure that you are feeling a part of this really wonderful, unique American historical experiment, I guess you could say, that we've had. And I think we should all be grateful that for the career staff, the public servants who steward those lands. And, when you go, say thank you for the work that they're doing.
Absolutely. Well, Secretary, I will give you the floor for anything you'd like to add to wrap up here.
Thank you so much, Corey. It's been wonderful having an opportunity to chat with you today. And all I can say, everyone, is look, I know sometimes things seem really terrible. It's frustrating to get up and read the headlines. It's very difficult to think about what is happening in our country right now. But I want you all to know that you can change those things. You have the power to change how our country moves forward. So if everyone went out and helped 5 people to register to vote, if everyone went out and helped 5 people to get to the polls in every single election, it would change our country for the better. So I thank you for being here, for participating in the important conversations that are happening here. And there is so much work to do. So let's all participate. Let's make sure that we are doing whatever we can to make our country a better place. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Secretary Haaland. We really appreciate it. And we hope to see you back again. And Jason, I'll hand it over to you to take us for the rest of the day.
Thank you so much to Field Team 6 Chief Strategist Corey Alperts, and so much thanks to Secretary Haaland. What a hero, right? Just for these super thoughtful, helpful answers. Field Team 6 is so proud to have supported Deb Haaland's congressional victories in New Mexico, 2 of them, by registering as many Democrats and independent voters as we could, specifically for her district. So also, I just want to call out a certain phenomenon that's just incredible, and I haven't heard it called out enough, but over and over again, the most vulnerable, the most oppressed people in our society have saved our democracy. And Native Americans in 2020, Navajo Nation was decisive in flipping Arizona to Biden, flipping it blue for the first time in 24 years. And yeah, so that is part of why Field Team 6's mission is it's Register Democrats Save the World, and we are laser focused on registering women, young people, people of color, the LGBTQ plus community, and then after that, every good-hearted person we can find. All right, so let's get an update. I'd love to know, Deja, can we get you up here? And love to know how much we've raised so far towards our goal for the day of $25,000. I know we've made some good progress towards it.
We have. We are up to $16,836.
All right. Very good. Very good. We can't get complacent though.
No complacency. No complacency. Well, I think this is actually great. It's great timing because we're gonna do a little intermission here. We're gonna give time for everybody to take a little break, make a little espresso, find your digital checkbook, let the cats out into the yard, whatever you do.
If they're there, it's
come
kind of
back. Yeah, then come back at 1:40 Pacific or 3:40 Eastern time.
4:40. 4:40
Oh,
Eastern.
sorry, math is not my strong suit. 4:40. No, you're right. It's 4:40. 4:40 Eastern time, and we'll start the program back up with.
We have Tania Johns from 1,000 Women Strong. We have DNC Chair Ken Martin. That's right. And we have Lee McGowan, Politics Girl, who is amazing, getting us all fired up. And then
Politics Girl.
Amazing. And then after that, we have got an interview where the fantastic Brian Tyler Cohen is interviewing the always fascinating Simon Rosenberg. That's not it though. After that, we've got this is an amazing afternoon we have for you. We have a screenwriter activist Billy Ray interviewing Jamie Raskin and Sarah McBride, 2 sitting members of the House. And then our grand finale is a call to action from us, Field Team 6, letting you know all the ways that you can plug in and help us literally save the world again. So you can make your last donations, sign up for your last events, and then we'll see you all back here at 1:40 p.m. Pacific, 4:40 p.m. Eastern.